Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle is a mobile game that has existed for a very long time. From 200% leader skills to flat boost leader skills, as well as a plethora of events to challenge players with, Dokkan has undergone several metas. Join me as I dive into the extensive history of Dokkan. Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle released in Japan for both Android and iOS, with Android being released first, around the end of January, and iOS following shortly after it. The global version of the game released 6 months later. Both versions of the game were developed by Akatsuki and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment. Early Dokkan was a very dark time for Dokkan Battle. There wasn't much to do, and there weren't that many SSRs in the game. The first World Tournament showed up roughly 4 months after the release of the game, which is probably the most difficult event at the time. Most players just went through the quest missions with whatever units they had to acquire several Dragon Stones. That was until the first Dokkan event showed up. Berserk of Destruction was the Dokkan event that released with the first Dokkan Fest exclusive unit, Super Warrior of Destruction, Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Broly was part of a collection of 5 Dokkan Fest exclusives that all had a leader skill that gave 3 ki and attack plus 3000 to their respective typing. Each of these units would come with their own challenging Dokkan event, which would be the hardest events players could challenge. Other Dokkan Fest exclusive characters would also be released, but their leader skills weren't that much to talk about. Unfortunately, a couple of these units actually get overshadowed before they even release, but we'll touch on that later. Each of these events had its own gimmick, some of which could be disabled with specific units, or when certain links were activated. Broly had his Rampage, which tremendously boosted his attack and defense, and he had an attack all attack. Cell had his Regeneration, which allowed him to heal. Goku and Vegeta's event had to be beaten within a certain number of counts, and you could not use Dragon Stones to continue the event when you lost. Frieza was able to lock your units in place, and would count down until he launched his devastating super attack. Gohan made use of his Ultimate Awakening, which allowed him to receive less damage while dealing more damage, and possibly randomly change Ki Spheres on the field. Kid Buu could change Ki Orbs into candy, and finally, Beerus had his Godly Grandeur, which greatly reduced the damage he received, and he had his Rage mode. With the release of Tech Cell, the nuking meta kicked off. Tech Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Goku, who released in the same month as Cell, had an incredibly powerful leader skill that gave Tech allies 30% attack per Tech Ki Sphere obtained. Combined with Cell's passive skill of 12% attack and defense per orb obtained, once difficult enemies could now be one-shot, which is very useful for the AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku Dokkan event, which had a turn counter on it. This meta was quite short-lived, however, as you did need the Goku and the Cell. There was a free-to-play Tech Android 13, but he didn't quite do enough damage. And there wasn't a unit good enough to nuke with on the Physical Blue Vegeta team and the AGL Golden Frieza team. They had similar leader skills to Goku, except for their respective typing. Now, as you can see, nuking requires you to collect as many Ki Spheres as possible. There are units who can change Ki Spheres. In fact, Tech Blue Goku changes Rainbow Ki Spheres into Tech ones. But the easiest way to maximize the Ki Spheres collected is to use items. Now, I know this may sound weird, but this was actually a problem. Now, firstly, you can generally only bring enough items to get 2 full nukes off. And secondly, players didn't have a lot of items in the first place. Early Dokkan was a very strange time. Nuking isn't really useful in difficult events today, but I can definitely say it impacted the design of several units, events, and even items. Due to the limitation of units required for nuking, players had to make do with what they had, which often consisted of a mixed bag of units. In Turles, SGR Super Saiyan Bardock and Physical Ultimate Gohan were all amazing units at the time. Turles and Gohan had leader skills which granted all allies 2 ki, while Bardock gave all allies 15% attack. Turles and Bardock were also support type units. Turles gave another 2 ki to all allies, and Bardock gave 10% attack to all allies. Gohan, on the other hand, was very self-sufficient. Gohan and Turles were considered better than Bardock as they gave ki in their leader skills, which was very important because in the early era of Dokkan, getting super attacks could almost be considered a luxury. Mono-type teams didn't really work out due to the limited pool of units, so your best bet was running a rainbow team, And no, I don't mean the whale kind, I mean an all types team that you could probably scrape together. Or nuke them. But that all changed when the first year anniversary came around. January 2016, the first anniversary, we got a dual Dokkan Fest. 2 amazing units would release, and that is of course STR Super Gogeta and Int Super Janemba. Janemba introduced the incredibly powerful guard ability and possessed an astonishing villain link set. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Janemba, as he was very good for a very long time. But on release, he was also very good, definitely one of the best units in the game. But the true first king of Dokkan was Gogeta. Gogeta had the best leader skill, all types, Ki +3, and attack +3000. His link set made him basically auto super, and his passive, attack +7000, attacks effective against all types. Gogeta obliterated everything. Players could finally build a cohesive team with Gogeta's impressive leader skill. Super effective against all types meant that nothing was safe from Gogeta. He was capable of destroying your enemies all by himself. This resulted in a very polarizing meta. Love him or hate him, you had to have Gogeta. Players would re-roll accounts until they pulled him. People were removed from friends lists because they didn't have him. There was no real point in summoning for Dokkan Fest after that, because he was leaps and bounds ahead of them. Gogeta would be the meta for a very long time, up until the next jump in leader skills, where another fusion would come and replace him as the king of Dokkan. But that's for the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this little history lesson. Let me know in the comments down below if you're actually around with these metas. Did you enjoy them or hate them? How does the difficulty compare with modern Dokkan? Alright, that's it from me. I'll check you in the next episode.